Today's topic is type checker or type checking in the syntax as part of the semantic analysis. Okay. In the first part of the third unit, the last topic. So, in the compiler design, we identified the various stages. After syntax analysis, we are verifying the semantic analysis also. So semantic analysis, as part of the semantic analysis, we are identifying various rules about the meaning of the statements and about the meaning of the statements in the given particular program. Okay. So here, what is the thing is finally we need sometimes we are verifying what is the type of the data types. Based on the data types, we learn various ways of data type conversions, implicit conversions or explicit conversions, whenever we are performing with the various operations. Because to perform any operations in any programming language, we require type compatibility. So the type compatibility, in order to identify the type compatibility, we need to check about the type of each and every component or data type before performing the expressions. Okay. Today's the topic is type checking. The type checking is a part of the semantic analysis. In the semantic analysis, where the compiler checks each operator has matching operands or not, each operand is compatible or not, okay, before performing the operation. So, for example, like the many programming languages required an array index to be an integer. Example is in many programming languages, we know, of course, but the programming language also defines every array must contain an index of or index to be an integer. What is the meaning of array in index to be integer? A of 0 representing the first memory location or first element, A of 1 second element, A of 2 third element, A of 3 third element, fourth element, A of 4 fifth element. But we never say A of 2.5 or 2.4 or 3.6. Location must be specifically in integer only. We can't say 2.5 element, 3.5 element. Okay. So if you are giving the integer value of 2.5 or 2.6, what is its meaning? It is a floating point number. Whenever we are giving an index to an array index, it must be an integer. It should not be a floating point number. So the compiler checks as part of the semantic analysis. It checks whether the given number is whenever we are referencing an integer value or not. The type checking is nothing but simply it checks such types, okay, whether it is allowed or not, right? So the language specifications may permit some type conversions called coercions. What it means, we must convert this particular thing into the specific type. Okay, whenever we are, say for example, we are adding two operands, arithmetic operands. One is in the double data type, another is in the integer data type. The second data type also automatically need to convert into the double. Then only we can add two double numbers together. Otherwise, it may leads to data loss. Okay, those things we need to identify. So the binary operators may be applied to either the pair of integers or pair of floating point numbers or pair of double data types, etc. If the operator is applied to a floating point number and an integer, the compiler may convert or coerce the integer into the floating point number. So it is forcing to convert into the higher data type. So in order to avoid the loss of data. Otherwise, whenever we are adding one integer with a floating type, the floating point integer, that decimal point that part will be lost. only two integers will be added. So it is leading to data loss. It is leading to data loss. Otherwise, if you are converting the integer into a float, the decimal point will also be retained in the result. That is the meaning of coercion, okay, or coercion converting the integer data type into the floating point data type. Okay, so we call it as maybe implicit data conversion, but the converter automatically will do to it makes whenever we are performing any operation between two integers or floats, okay, no problem. But whenever it is the compiler is converting two dissimilar data types, it may lead to loss of data. So in order to avoid the loss of data, it has to make the two data types into compatible, and also at the same time higher order data types. Okay, right. So the type checking is required in the compiler data type. To do the type checking, the compiler need to assign a type expressions like an attribute, a type expression to each component of the source program. In the previously we identified each and every token in the particular program. We are adding lot of attributes, maybe type, size, and so on. Here also now we are identifying type expression also. Okay, so based on the type expression, it identifies whether to convert into the compatible data type or not, or it cohers to the compatible data types or not. Right. The compiler must then determine that these type expressions conform to a collection of logical rules. Whatever the logical rules we are giving a type expression to represent our type of the data types. Okay, the type expression also, because based on the type expression, it identifies a collection of logical rules. Okay, we call it as a type system for the source program. We call it as a type system for the source program. Not only but just a particular data type, but also we are identifying various logical collection of logical rules. Okay, so whenever we require, we may convert into the required ones. This collection of confirming the type expressions conforming to logical collection of rules we call as type system for the given source program. For the given source program. So type checking has the potential for catching errors in the program. Okay. What is the advantage? The type checking has the potential for catching errors in the program. Generally, if you are writing any particular program, if you are perfectly implementing any compiler, it must always avoid these potential errors in the program. That means the runtime program. Whenever we are having any runtime errors, what happens? The program will be abruptly terminated, okay, and we need to reconnect. If the particular compiler is designed perfectly, it generally avoids these potential errors in the particular program, especially at the particular runtime. We also call this as the done at dynamically. Statically means compilation time, but also such errors may occur dynamically. Okay, so in principle, any check can be done dynamically if the target code carries the type of an element. If the target code can carry type of an element along with the value of the element. Okay, what it means, if you want to perfectly handle the type checking, especially at the dynamically, if the target code carries the type of the element along with the value of the element, such errors can be avoided. Okay, the type of the element along with the value is also not sufficient. Okay, along with the value of the element, if the target code carries the type of element also, the target code carries the type of an element also, we can potentially avoid errors dynamically. Okay, so such a system we can call as a sound type system. Sound type system. What it means? The type system is containing all required rules so that we can avoid errors dynamically or at the runtime. If you are having such a type system, we can call it as a sound type system. The sound system eliminates the need for dynamic checking for the type errors. Okay, it avoids dynamic checking for type errors. because it allows us determine statically. It allows us determine statically. So everything can be handled at the compilation time. Okay, that is the meaning of static data statically. Okay, dynamically means at execution time. Whereas if you can identify all these such errors, okay, at a compilation time, we can call it as a statically. If the sound system is having all the required rules and regulations for avoiding the type errors, it particularly the dynamically, that means at the execution time, runtime, it eliminates need for dynamic checking. It eliminates need for time checking. So once if you are executing that particular, once you compile that particular program, it automatically determines the program is error free. It may not lead to any dynamic errors. Okay. So if you are having a sound type system containing all the required rules and syntactic rules and regulations, okay, in particularly type checking errors, type semantic errors, okay, or rules and regulations, okay, it allows us to determine statically the particular program that these errors cannot occur at the target program runs. These errors may not occur at the target program runs. So we need to identify such a sound type system. It contains all required logical collection of semantic rules so that it can be handled statically. That means at the compilation time of itself, it may not occur so that it may not occur at the target program execution time. Target program execution time. Okay, right. So an implementation of language is strongly typed. Strongly typed means it contains all the required rules and semantic rules and regulations. Okay. So an implementation of a language is strongly typed if a compiler guarantees that the program it accepts will run without errors. Okay, an implementation of any programming language we can declare as a strongly typed if a compiler guarantees that the program will accept uh, all the types of the programming language and run without any type errors at runtime. Without on runs without type errors at the runtime. Okay, right. So our motto is we want to avoid runtime errors. Okay, all errors can be handled at statically or at the compilation time. It is possible only if it is having strongly typed, contains all semantic rules, including related to the type of the each and every component of the programming language. Okay. Besides their use of compiling, the idea for type checking have been used to improve the security of the system also. Okay, not only to avoid this particular thing, by making a perfect strongly typed system, we can improve the security of the system also. That allows software modules to be imported and executed without any incompatibility issues. Right. So, for example, the Java programs compiled into machine independent bytecodes that include detailed type information about the operations in the bytecodes. Okay, the example is the Java programs generally whatever the compiled into the machine independent bytecodes that include all detailed type information about the operations in the bytecodes. So the imported code is checked before it is allowed to execute. The imported code is checked before it is allowed to execute. Before it is allowed to execute. So that is our intention is to avoid runtime errors. Not only but it guards against the both inadvertent errors and malicious misbehavior. Okay, what is mean? It avoids okay unexpected errors. Okay, and also unexpected behavior of the particular program. If you are whatever the expected result, it has to produce that result. If it is deviating from the expected results, we call it as a malicious behavior. We call it as a malicious behavior. Be careful. Okay. So in order to avoid all the runtime errors, okay, or inadvertent errors or malicious behavior, okay, the imported code will be checked before it is allowed to, before it is allowed to execute. Okay, right. So our intention is everything should be handled at the compilation so that we are avoiding the runtime errors. Okay, and inadvertent errors or misbehaviors. Okay, right. What is the main thing till now we identified? We are including lot of rules. Okay, lot of semantic rules attached to the type of each and every component of the program. What is the thing? Finally, we identified in order to avoid all these runtime errors, we are including lot of semantic rules to each and every type expression or each and every component of the program. Okay, right. So this type checking in terms of the rules, semantic rules can be of two forms. The two forms can be synthesis or inference. The two rules are synthesis or inference. The two rules are synthesis or inference. Okay, right. The type checking or type checking can be of two types: synthesis and inference. Now we'll see what is the meaning of synthesis and what is the meaning of inference. The type synthesis, type checking in terms of we are calling as type synthesis and type inference. The meaning of type synthesis or what the duty of this okay, what is the operation of the type synthesis is the type synthesis builds a type of an expression, builds a type of an expression, okay, from the types of its sub expressions. The type synthesis, what it do, it builds the type of expression from the type of its sub expressions. What is the meaning of synthesis rule? It gets the data from its children. What is the meaning of synthesis means? It gets its properties from its children. Okay, that we learned in the previously. Okay, here also synthesis of the type means it creates the type of expression. It creates the type of expression from the type of its sub expressions. Type of its sub expression. Say for example, E derives E plus E1 plus E2. E is on the left hand side of the expression. E1 and E2 are the right hand side of the expression. Okay. So the type of E will be created using type of E1 and type of E2. Okay. Right. So the synthesis of the type expression can be calculated from type of its sub expressions. Okay. What it means now? It requires name to be declared before they are used. It requires names to be declared before they are used. Based on the declaration of the names or based on the declaration of the variables or components, it creates the results type. It creates the result type. Okay. The type of E1 plus E2 is defined in terms of type of E1 and type of E2. Whenever you want to calculate E1 plus E2, say for example now, the E1 is a separate component, E2 is a separate component. Whenever you want to calculate what is the type of E1 plus E2 will be defined in terms of type of E1 and type of E2. Okay, right. So a typical rule for type synthesis as the form. Okay, we are declaring this type synthesis, calculate identifying the type of parent in terms of the type of his children. We call it as a typical rule. The typical rule for the type synthesis as the form. Okay, if F has type S derives T. Okay, we are having an expression or production S derives T. Okay, and everything is in the form of expression that F function F has type S derives T, and X has type S, and X has type S. Okay, what it means? If you know the type X, because X is the type of S, S is type of T. Finally, X is nothing but of type T. Okay, then the expression what it is doing, the expression F of X is nothing but okay type T. What is it is what it is identifying? The expression F of X is giving type T. What it is mean? Because X is of type S, as S is type T, it is nothing but okay. The F of X is nothing but type T. From X we are getting S, from S we are getting T. So finally X is nothing but the type of T. Right. Here, f and x denotes expressions. It can be of any expression. F and x denotes expressions, and s derives t denotes a function from s to t. Okay, and s derives t denotes a function from s to t. This rule for functions with one argument it is containing over to the functions with several arguments also. Okay, for simplicity, this particular rule s derives t is given with single argument. Instead of the single argument, we can have a number of arguments or several arguments. The rule can be adopted for e1 plus e2 by viewing it as a function. Okay, f is a function, then f can be say add, f can be say add, or even in e2 we are passing an argument to the function arguments like x. Previously the x is single argument, now we are identified the f is nothing but this add, this x is now add nothing but the pair of e1 comma e2, the pair of e1 comma e2. It identified the type of this x value. Okay, that x value can be derived from the function x derives t. We know x is of type s. Say for example, x is nothing but t. T is also showing what is the final data type. Based on this particular thing, we are getting the type of e1 plus e2 or e1 comma e2. Okay, right. We are having one more type called as type inference. The previous is type synthesis. Type synthesis. Type synthesis getting its values from its children. Okay. Similarly, we are having the other type. Okay, representation. It is called as type inference. Type inference. The type inference determines the type of the language construct. The type inference determines the type of the language construct from the way it is used. Okay, the type inference determines the type of the language construct or for any component from the way it is used. Okay, not like unlike the previous case getting the values from its children. Okay, the type inference is getting the type of the programming language construct or variables from the way it is used. Okay, let null be a function that tests whether the list is empty. Okay, let null be a function. Okay, argument whatever it is given to the particular function f is a null. It is checking whether the list contain any values or the list is empty. Okay, we need to identify. So if the list is empty, in what way we can calculate the type of the particular thing? Here we are identifying whether the list is containing anything or not. Okay, that is giving some more information based on the null arguments or given arguments. We may calculate because we know some default functions does not require any arguments. Okay, some functions we are passing arguments, right? That is the two things we need to identify. So the usage of null of this x, we can tell that x must be a list, x must be a list, or we are identifying finally x may not be, is not containing any values or null list. Okay, the type of element of x is not known. What it is also indicating, the type of element of x is not known. All we know is x must be a list of elements. What we required here, x must be a list of elements. We are not identifying here what is the type of the x, but we are identifying here null of x is means x must be a list of elements of some type, of some type, whatever the type it is. Okay, and maybe the presently the type of the particular values in the x is unknown, but we are identifying x must be a list of elements. Okay, right. The variables are representing type expressions. The variables representing the type expression allow us to talk about unknown types. Okay, that unknown types, whatever we are identifying, we shall use the Greek letter alpha, beta for type variables in the type expressions, for the type variables in the type expressions, right? So a typical rule for type inference as the form, a typical rule for the type inference as the form x of x is an expression if f of f is the function name, x is the argument, if f of x is an expression, then some alpha and beta. Okay, for some alpha and beta, we are not specifying particularly what is the E1 or what is the E2. For some alpha and beta, F has a type alpha derives beta, and X has the type alpha, and X has type alpha because alpha is on the left hand side. Finally, it is getting the type of alpha, whatever it may be. Okay, it is that now the value is the type of alpha. Okay, right. The type inference is needed for the programming language for the all machine languages, which checks types but do not require name to be declared. It checks types but do not require name to be declared. Okay. So previously we identified, we handled with the declared data types. Now it can be how variables which are not declared earlier, but now we are checking based on the inference rule the type of the particular variable. Okay. Consider type checking of expressions. The rules for checking the statements are similar to those for the expressions. So, for example, if you treat the conditional statement if expression s, if expression s as if it were the application of the function e to s, okay, as it if it were the application of the function to s, okay. So because we are identifying the expression e, then we are going to the statement t, okay, right. Let the specific type also we are identifying void data type. We are identifying one more data type called as void type. The void denotes absence of a value. The void, what it is indicating, whenever we are using a void, what is the meaning of this semantic rule void indicating? It is indicating absence of value. It is indicating absence of value. Then the function, if expects to be applied to boolean onto a void, the result of application is void. Okay, what it is, so void, anything we are adding with the void, we are getting the void. So if the function expects to be applied to boolean and a void, the result of the application is also void. Okay, so this is the meaning of type expression, and also within 5-10 minutes will see one more information related to the type conversions. In the previously, in order to identify the type checking, okay, whether we are using the synthesis or inference, okay, sometimes the compiler is automatically doing the type conversions. Compiler is automatically doing type conversions. We know what is the meaning of type conversions, whether implicit type conversion or explicit type conversion. Implicit type conversion means compiler automatically converts lower order data type into the higher order data type, or explicit type conversion means we are sometimes in the program itself we are using converting a given data type into a data type which is compatible with the result computations. Okay, uh, result computations, right? So in the type conversions, consider the expression like x plus I, where x is of type float and I is of type integer. In order to perform the operations between the integer and the float, okay, because these two data types are different within the computer and the different machine instructions are used for operations on integer and floats, compiler may need to convert one of the operand of this addition into the compatible type of the other, so that both operands of the same type, and so that both operands are of the same type, and then addition can carry out. Okay, so what we can do is we need to convert one data type into the other higher order data type. Maybe for example, if we are having 2 into 3.14, we need to convert as part of the 3 address codes, maybe. Okay, the 2 must be converted into float first, then we can have that value in a temporary variable 10(1), then we can perform the addition, okay. That is the meaning of the type conversion, that is the meaning of this type conversion. Okay. Similarly, we are having using the type synthesis or type inferences, the in terms of the type conversions, we'll see the type synthesis will be used for the translating expressions. Okay, so for example, we introduce another variable e dot type whose value is either integer or float. Our rule associated is e derives e1 plus e2. That means e is getting the type value from type value of e1 and type value. The e2 on the given pseudocode, in what way we are including the rules is if e1 dot type is equal to integer and e2 type is equal to integer, then each type can be integer. Okay. Okay. If E1 type is integer and E2 type is integer, that means both the types are integer, then we are assigning E type is integer. Else, say for example, E1 dot type is equal to float and E2 dot type is equal to integer, then we need to do some conversion. Based on the conversion, or based on we need to identify higher type data type need to be assigned to E dot type. Okay. Likewise, we need to associate rules. Okay. As number of types subject to the conversion increases, the number of cases also increases rapidly. That is the thing. We need to add all the rules and regulations to the semantic expressions or semantic tool. Okay. So the thing is, with the large number of types, careful organization of semantic actions need to be incorporated or imported or need to be included. Okay. In particularly, so with reference to the type expressions, we are having the widening conversions or narrowing conversions based on the requirement. Okay. Widening conversions means if you are having the byte, okay, the byte can be converted into the short. Under we are having the two different types of character. One is short integer, maybe another is character. Then we need to convert the character also into the integer. If required, the integer can be converted into the long data type, long integers. Long integers can be converted to the float. Float can be converted into the double. Okay. Sometimes we require to narrowing the conversions. Okay. Double E is reduced into the float. Float can be reduced into the long. Long can be converted into integer, then character or short or byte. This can be vice versa. Okay. These are the various rules based on uh, the semantic rules expression rules associated in this particular part based on the different cases and based on the number of types available. We need to include all these things by using these conversion rules. Okay. Widening conversion or narrowing conversions. Okay. So the thing is whether it is the Java or any other programming language. For example, we are taking the as a popular programming language is Java that identifying the widening conversions. The widening conversions are generally used to preserve information. Okay, the widening conversions are used to generally for preserve information. The narrowing conversions generally you are using are leading to the loss information. That is the thing we need to identify. Okay, the implicit we are having one more type of the conversions. We are calling it as implicit type conversions or explicit type conversions. The implicit type conversions are although called coercions because automatically the compiler is handling forcing to convert one data type into the other data type are limited in many programming languages to widening the conversions. Okay, widening conversions never forces data loss, whereas the implicit conversions or coercions may lead to the data loss. Okay, may lead to data loss. Okay, or narrowing conversions may lead to data loss. Okay, so in order to avoid the data loss, many programming languages are avoiding these coercions or implicit type conversions. Okay, that is the thing we need to keep in mind. Okay, whenever we are writing any particular compilers or programs. Okay, coercion is limited in programming languages. Coercion is said to be explicit if the programmer must write something to cause the conversion. That is called as explicit conversions. We are also called as typecastings. We are also called as typecasting or simply called as cast. Okay, we call it as a typecasting. Okay, so for example, we are having the small semantic action rule. Okay, semantic action for once again, take our example. It is E1 plus E2. We are using the two functions maximum of T1 comma 2. Okay, maximum that means we are identifying here what is the largest data type among the E1 and E2. For it, we are using a function called as maximum. T1 comma T2 takes two types of the T1 and T2. Here it is nothing but E1 and E2 and returns maximum or least upper bound of the two types in the widening the hierarchy. Okay, of the two types are in the widening hierarchy. It declares an error. It declares an error if either T1 or T2 is not in the hierarchy. The hierarchy means whatever the data types we identified earlier. This is the data types available in the hierarchy. If the data type of the given variable is not in the hierarchy, then it raises an error. If it is in the hierarchy, automatically it gives the higher data type. Okay, right. So we are having one more function widen of if the data types a arguments as a tw generates type conversion if needed to widen the contents of an address a, widen the context of an address a of the type t, okay, into the value of type w, of type t into the value of type w. Okay, right. So this is the widening rule. Okay, it is getting the address of type t into the type w. It returns a itself. A means the address. It returns an address itself if t and w are of same type. Okay, it returns an a address of this particular thing itself if w and t are same type. Otherwise, it has to give the largest data type. Okay, otherwise it generates instruction to be or instruction to do the conversion and places the results in the temporary variable as I showed you in the three address code, which is returns as address, Okay, so the pseudocode for widening and assuming that only types of integers and floats appears in the previous shown figure or the figure here. How we are writing this particular small code for identifying that particular thing type conversion. So our widening rule. Okay, this small function because here the address means return data type the address. Okay, as a data type widen is the function name. For it, here arguments are an address type t type w. If t is equal to w, that means it is of same type. If t and w are same type, it is returning value of a itself. Else, if t is integer and w is float, okay, it is creating a new type. Temp is equal to new temp. It is creating a temporary variable. Then it is identifying the temp is to be generated as float. Okay, of the data type a, because a is float. It has to that returning data type address should be a float data type. Resulting data type address should be float data type because float is the largest data type here. Then it is returning the temp. Okay, so it is returning a result variable which can is having the capable of holding float data type. Okay, else if it is not in the hierarchy, then it is returning the error. Okay, so this is the various ways of type conversions, whatever I showed you in the previous figure. Okay, and also we are having the small code for how it is introducing the type conversion into the type expressions, having a small code here. The E derives E1 plus E2. E dot type is nothing but maximum of E1 or type or E2 type, maximum of E1 type or even E2 type. Otherwise, if it is not in the particular thing, then we are widening for E1 address or E2 address, okay, or E1 type, or sometimes we need to widen the E2. If you are widening the E2, then you using the widen function, you are giving E2 address, E2 type, and E type. Okay, so this is the way we can convert that particular expression one data type to other data type, and also it is checking that whether the data types are in the given hierarchy or not. Else it is giving us errors. Okay, so the final thing of this particular thing is we are including all these required semantic rules in order to avoid runtime errors. Okay, everything will be compiled statically. So we are avoiding unwanted behaviors. We are avoiding the unwanted misbehavior.